Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Basra Nun Beis. We are holding on Nun Aleph Amid Beis, 5 lines from the bottom, at the 2 dots. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, we have learned the following halacha in a brisa. Ein mekablan pikdoines. One may not accept an item or money for safekeeping from the following individuals who are suspected of perhaps siphoning it off from their caretakers, their masters. Okay, so who are these individuals? Loimin hanasha, not from a married woman. She may have taken it from her husband. V'loimin avadim, nor are you meant to take it from a slave who may have stolen this item from his master. Likewise, v'loimin atinoikos, you have a child who's under the care of some caretaker. You shouldn't be taking stuff from him. He may have taken it from that person. Now, after the fact, suppose he had already accepted this pikadon, kibeil min ha'isha. So he took the item from the isha. Now what? Return it to the husband? Shall we assume definitively that she took it from him, or on the one hand, we have our suspicions, but it's not confirmed, it's not verified. Says the Brisa, actually that's correct. That's the right approach. You cannot just take it and return it to the husband. Rather, the correct approach is yachshar leisha, give it back directly to the isha, and have her take care of it. So on the one hand, as the Rashbam explains, the reason why we don't accept pikdonos from these people, we're concerned that perhaps they stole it from the husband, from the master, and therefore you're not allowed to cooperate with these types of asur l'sayeya yidei ovrei avera. It's called misayeya. You're not meant to offer assistance and cooperate, enable these types of things. But ultimately, once he took the item, you can't state definitively that it was taken from, was stolen. So you have to return it to the sender, okay, and let that person deal with it. So kibel min ha'isha, yachshar isha, give it back to the isha. V'imesa. Now let's say she passes away. Oh, now the equation changes, because the item that you have in your possession from the isha currently belongs to the husband, because once she passes away, a husband is yoresh his wife. So either way, it's his, whether it was originally his or whether it wasn't. Yachshar lebala, he returns it to her husband. Likewise, kibel min ha'eved, if he took it from the eved and he still has it, and not sure what to do with it, yachshar le'eved, return it to the eved. But if he died, v'meis, yachshar l'rabbi, now he goes back to the master. And the Rashbam here explains, because typically an eved is a gazlan, stam avadim gazlanim, and you have a right to assume that in fact it belonged to the adain. So if there's no eved to return it to, you give it back to the yachshar l'rabbi. Okay, so there's one exception to this rule, which is coming up. Kibel min ha'katan. Well, let's say he already accepted the item from the katan. So by the isha, he gives it back to the isha. The eved, back to the eved. But by the katan, you can't do that. Why? Explains the Rashbam. A katan, here we're speaking about a very small child. The Ritva says, up to 6 or 7, not included, because once it gets to that point, it's called pa'itois, which we learned back, I think in Bava Kama, that a child of that age is already considered to have somewhat of somewhat intelligence. He can even do some transactions. So we're speaking about a super young child who, if you shall return the item to him, it's like abandoning the item. The Rashbam calls it mashlich le'ibud dami. You have no right to just leave the item in the young child's possession. It's like you're just losing it, right? Like you're throwing it out. So in this case, prudence requires that you hold on to it a bit longer until the child grows up and can, handle it. So what do you do in the meantime? Yasalei segula. You turn it into a treasure, into an investment for the child. And the Gemara will explain exactly what this is. Vimeis. Now let's say the child did pass away, and you still have the item. Yachshar yarshav. So you return it to his Yerush, to his family, his father, his whatever. Now, v'kulan she'amru. Now, by the way, the Taisus adds a point here. He says, by the katan, you already have it, okay? So why don't you just give it back to his family? So he says like this because the thing may have been an aveda, a metzia. You may have found something in the street. You never know. L'chatchila, you assume that you don't want to touch it. It could have been stolen, but once you have it, you can't just give it back to his parents. Maybe it was really his. Maybe he found it in the street. So you have to turn it into a segula. Okay, if he passes away, you give it to his Yershim. Next point. All these individuals, okay, so they're about to pass away, and that's a time that typically people are, going to settle their affairs, and they start giving you instructions. Okay, so Isha says, you should know, this item belongs to so-and-so. So, let's suppose it's the wife, and she's declaring that the item that she placed in your care doesn't belong to her husband, rather belongs to Ruvain out there. What do you do now? You follow her instructions. Yasa kepirushan. So you do as you were instructed. Vimlav. Now, let's say it seems unlikely that she's saying the truth. Perhaps she's just saying it out of busha. She's embarrassed to reveal the fact that she stole it from her husband. Or in the case of the Eved, he's ashamed by the fact that he stole it from his master. So, you sense that it's just serving as a cover-up for the real thing. In this case, Yasa Pirush, you should provide your own explanation, your own elaboration. Li Pirushan, to their explanation, meaning you should conclude that in fact it goes back to the rightful owner, to the to the one that they stole it from, the master of the Eved, etc. And we have a story on this vein. Dvisu de Rabba Bar Chana. Rabba Bar Chana's wife, Kika Shachva, when she was preparing for Misa, she was passing away, Amra, she called out as follows. She says, Hani kipi, these earrings, they don't belong to my husband. The Marta, they belong to this person called Marta, who is actually a brother, a Talmid Chacham, a brother of Rabbi Chia. Belongs to him. Ubnei Barta, him and his grandchildren, him and his family. Also lekamei de Rav. So Rabba Bar Chana comes to Rav. What am I meant to do? Am I meant to believe her or not? Amalei, he says, if she, she's trusted to you, you trust her words. Asei ki perusha, okay, then do as instructed. But otherwise, asei perush, the perusha, draw your own conclusions, i.e., assume it's really your property and keep it. Vikad Amri, some have a different version of his response. Hachi Amalei, this is what he told him. He used a different word. Instead of mehemna, he used the word amida. Amida means if she's appraised, meaning she's known to have this type of thing. What does this mean? Amalei, amidalach, if she's known to you as a trustworthy person, then asei perusha, then you do as per her instructions. Otherwise, asei perush the perusha, then you'll draw your own conclusions and you'll keep the item. According to another pshat in the Rashbam, amida here means like this: she's known to have good friends, right? A socially oriented person, generous person who's known to have good friends who might like her and give her presents. In which case, it makes sense that she's turning around now and offering them matanos and gifts, but it's really her thing that she's giving away. That's what amidalach means. So then follow through. Otherwise, keep the item. Okay, so in conclusion, you're not meant to accept pikdoines from noshim, from avodim, from ketanim, for concern that perhaps there are stolen goods. Once he took the item, give it back to the isha, give it back to the eved. By the katan, you turn it into a segula, which we'll see in a minute. If these individuals pass away without instructing, then you give it back by the isha, you give it back to the husband, by the eved to the rabbi, and by the katan to the yarshim. If they in fact told us what to do before they passed on, then you do as you're told, unless you suspect otherwise. Mina katan yasale segula, says the Gemara. So what is in fact a segula? My segula. Rav Chizda Amar, you want it to be a lasting investment, right? No risk, maintenance free. Rav Chizda Amar Sefer Torah. use the money, invest it in a Sefer Torah, which is going to be a lasting thing, and provide the cotton with pay raise, because he can use it, learn it all the time. So he uses it without it getting used up. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, he says you take it and you invest it in a dikla. You purchase a palm tree, which lasts and also provides constant income. Da'achal minei tamri, from which the child can eat tamarim, dates, so it's a constant source of income. Interestingly, there's a whole controversy regarding, we all know about the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah. Right? There's a mitzvah in the Torah for a person to write a sefer Torah, to make a sefer Torah. And the question is, suppose a person has a sefer Torah, but he doesn't really, he gave it to the shul. So the shul is reading it, it's the shul, he donated it. Is he in fulfillment of this mitzvah? Meaning, what is the essence of the mitzvah? To make the sefer Torah? So he made the sefer Torah. Or is it to have it? So some learn that, in fact, a person, if he chooses to give a sefer Torah to a shul, he should give it, but he should not give it away to the shul. It should be like sort of a long-term loan, so that the sefer Torah still belongs to him, and will be considered a fulfillment of the mitzvahs ksiva sefer Torah. But others learn that no, the Marcheshes actually brings a right from Al Gemara. It's about making the sefer Torah. It's about writing it. But once you have it made for you, even if chas v'shalom you lose it, or let's say you give it away, it's still your doing. It's still the sefer Torah that you produced, they brought into the world, which in fact is the essence of the mitzvah. And the right from Al Gemara is, because the Gemara says, you have the funds that belong to a katan, yasalei segula. So you do something which is going to be lasting, and the point is that even chas v'shalom, the sefer Torah is misplaced. It's a katan, right? You're giving it to the katan, okay? But he might lose it. He might. So that's the point of the Gemara. Once it's a sefer Torah, even if he should misplace it, he shouldn't even have it in his possession any longer. He has still fulfilled. It's still a guaranteed investment because he has fulfilled the mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah by making it. So, from our Gemara, it seems like it's about making it. It's about writing it. That is considered a mitzvah, not about having it. Incidentally, yesterday, Vashkacha Pratis, I was looking at the Sefer Shem Olam by the Chavetz Chaim. So in the introduction, the Akdama, Chavetz Chaim's every word is a pearl, is accurate, and he writes there about people who are looking to make a lasting memoriam for themselves, and suppose they for example they make a sefer Torah and they have it written up and they donate it to a shul. He says certainly, of course, it's a kiyum of a mitzvah, a gemura, there would be mekayim, a full mitzvah, and he goes on to say, but really learning Torah is whatever, it's within the context of a conversation. But the fact is, he does mention this point in passing. It would seem from the Chavetz Chaim that even once he donates it to a shul, it's still his mitzvah of ksiva sefer Torah. Interesting. So it's corroborated with Al Gemara as well. Okay, continues the Gemara. Now we're going back to the halacha of chazak. If one, sits on a field for 3 years and reaps the crop, right? That is a fulfillment of chazaka, in which case he can claim ownership even in the absence of a shtar to prove ownership. But that's only when his being there would theoretically trigger a protest on account of the owner. But let's say a father with a son, etc. These people are not makbid on each other, especially if they're managing each other's property. Okay, so if there's some sort of joint business venture between the father and the son, if there's if they're part of the same household, the son is still being supported by his father, so just being on the property doesn't indicate anything. Amar Rav Yosef, afilu chalku. You should know it. This halacha applies even if they've parted ways. Still, a father is not makbid on the son, and vice versa, and therefore his presence on this property does not indicate ownership. Rava disagrees. Rav Amar chalku loy. Once they've separated, they're like ordinary, random individuals. In which case, chazaka takes effect. Chalku loy. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti. Avad Rav Papi. In fact, Rav Papa implemented this concept lahalacha lemaisa. Uvda, he did a story chalku loy, that in fact once they parted ways, they were treated like regular people, and the 3-year chazaka takes effect. Kirava, in accordance with Rava's sheet, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Ishtoili, the following halacha was related to me by Rav Chia from the town of Mehurmez Ar Deshid, the Ishtoili that was related to him by Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, Mishmei Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov. Cholku, once they separate Loi, the halacha changes. Vilchasan, that's the halacha, Cholku Loi. Tanya Nam Yehachu, we find the same in the Brisa, Ben Shechalak. The child went separate ways. V'isha shenisgasha, the wife divorced. Harein kishar kalada, we treat them like strangers with respect to chazaka, and in fact, their being on the property for 3 years gives them ownership. Continues the Gemara. Itmar, we have learned about a case of echad mina achen. You have a family whose father, let's say, passed away, and you have, let's say, the oldest son. He's managing the estate. He's taking care of the business. He's running the show. Echad min ha'achin. Okay, so he was wheeling and dealing, looking after everything. And incidentally, you have these sale documents executed on the through the business. Ushtaros, or loan documents. Oinoi, by the way, is called a document which proves ownership. And Rashi says, Shtare mechirei, says Rashbam Loshem Koichi. Bereshis Oini and Bereshis Mamtes, Yaakov Avinu spoke about the his strength, the epitome of his strength. Oini is strength. That's why it's called a shtar. Oinai. That's why we call it a shtar oinai, because it provides strength and proof of ownership. So it's an empowerment, a document of empowerment. Okay. So interestingly, all these documents, all these business-related records were all written on his name, as though he purchased everything, he loaned all the money, but really he was just looking after his brother's property. So it's on his name, but the question is, was it really his money? Was it really his doing? We know of no other source of income. He has no other known business. So perhaps it's just his name happened. Incidentally, his name is on the thing because it's just by circumstance, because of his involvement in in representing the brothers. Or shall we say, no, if he has a shtar with his name on it, the property belongs to him and not to his brothers. Okay, so we have this big argument here, right? He claims, Shalim, it's mine. It's my property, it's my loan, it's my... How do I get money? Well, I got, funds, I got possessions from my mother's father's family. It's not sorry, brothers. We don't share the same mother. That's where I got the money from. It's not from our joint estate, from our father. So the question is, who? The burden of proof. On whom is it? Who has to prove the facts? Is it him or them? Must he prove his case and establish ownership, or perhaps they have to disprove his claim? Which way is it? Amar Rav. Okay, Alav Lavi right. Rav says, well, the default assumption is that he's wheeling and dealing with their funds, with their properties, with their possessions. Because he's not known to have any other funds. He wasn't known to be a wealthy man, and therefore he has to establish ownership. He has to prove his case. Ushmol Amar no. Allah Achen Laviraya, they have to disprove him. Otherwise, we assume that the documents are his and it's all about him. Okay, so Rav says the brother has to prove his claim. Shmuel says they have to disprove his claim. They have to prove their position. Amar Shmuel. Says Shmuel, Rav would agree to me in the following case. Moidali Abba. Who's Abba? Rashbam says that actually Abba was Rav's true name. That was his name. His name was Abba. He shows a Gemara in Chulin where he was called Abba. Abba Aricha, the tall Abba. But the name Rav was just sort of a title. Similar to the word Rebbe. The title Rebbe that was given to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who lived in Eretz Yisrael. So Rav was given to Abba, who lived in Bavel. So in Eretz Yisrael it was Rebbe. They added a yud, and in Bavel they called him Rav. Perhaps because in interesting, you look around Shas, in the Amoraim who lived in Bavel were typically without the yud, like Rav Zera, Rav Nachman, right? But in Eretz Yisrael, they added the Yud. In fact, Rabbi Zera himself, when he moved to Eretz Yisrael, he was given the title Rabbi Zera. You have Rabbi Yochanan, right? So perhaps because in Babel there was no smicha, in Eretz Yisrael there was. Whatever it is, over there was Rav, and here was Rebbe. So Rav is really a title, an honorary title, an endearing title, given to the Amira by the name of Abba. Moideli Abba. Rav would agree to me in the following case. She'im meis, ala ochan laviraya. That if this administrator, this treasurer, this older brother passes away and he leaves behind, his children, and now the question resurfaces: whose possessions are these? Who's the real owner? Was it their father's, the older brother, and now it's passed on to them, or do the brothers have to, or do they have to, confirm and verify their claim vis-a-vis their uncles now? So Rav would agree in this case, the children are in the right. Why? There's a law called Ta'aninan Liyasmi. The Bezdin will get in the way, will advocate for orphans. How are they meant to know, how are they meant to be familiar with the goings-on, within their father's business enterprise, right? They have no idea. So, sometimes we do that. We advocate for the children. We say, look, we're on their side until proven otherwise. They're in the right until, the onus of proof is on the other litigant. So therefore, although if their father was still around, Rav would hold that he has to prove his case. But once he's not around, we advocate for the kids and the tables turn. Asks the Gemara, hold it. They can't be better than their father. I mean, if, in a case where the father could have just said it's mine and been in the right, so we pass that on to the kids. We pass on that right, so to speak, to the kids, that privilege to the kids, even though they're not saying anything, but they don't know any better. So we do it for them. But in this case, even if he should yell and scream, it's mine, doesn't mean much, right? Rav sort of ignored his claim. No, you have to, the burden of proof is on you. So how can the kids be better than the father? Maskav l'Rav Papa, klum tanin and luhuli yasmi. Since when do we advocate for the kids if it's a case where midi, something deloitan lo avoin, the father failed to claim, he failed to verify his claim and to confirm ownership. So we can't just empower the kids in a way that's greater than their father. And in fact, we'll bring a story to back this off. A halacha that Rava himself executed. Rava apik. Rava retrieved zuga de sarbila, some sort of trimming scissors used to trim garments, coats, v'safra d'agada, a sefer containing divrei agada, an interesting sefer, right? Miyasmi, took it back from the Yisayimim, because there was a fellow claiming to own these items, and claiming that he had loaned these items to their father, something which is typically loaned. It's called dvarim ha'asuyim lahashel ula'asker. Right? Typically, when you have something, you assume it's yours, right? You can claim ownership on something which is in your possession, but if it's something which is typically loaned around town, right, you can't say, well, I have it, it's mine. Right? You have to prove that it's yours, because otherwise we'll just, the owner can say, look, I lent it to you. I mean, this is something I always borrow, I lent people. So here it was something which was typically loaned. Even though they were Yisayimim, they couldn't hold on to it. So he allowed the owner, who substantiated his ownership, he had Adam that, in fact, this item belonged to him, he was allowed to take it back from the Yisayimim, below right, without proving that, in fact, it still belonged to him. Why? Because once we know that it was his, since we're speaking of dvarim ha'asuyim, lahashel lahasker, things which are typically loaned around or rented around, so they can't just hold on to it as theirs. Right? Like Rav Huna bar Avin sent the halacha dvarim ha'asuyim lahashel lahasker, these types of items which are known to make their rounds around town. Va'amar, and a person gets up and says, well, look, I have this car, it's mine. No, it's a rental. He's not believed. So even though they were Yisayimim, we don't stand up for them more than we would for their father. I mean, they're not, just because they're a kid doesn't mean they have a right to steal. So why is our case different? I mean, this caretaker, right, the Gadol Ha'ach, and the older brother who's looking after the family business, he's known to be dealing with their possessions unless he proves otherwise, unless he can substantiate ownership. That's Rav's opinion. So why would that change just because he passed away? Kasha. So we leave it as a kasha on this, on the fact that the Shmuel consider this to be the correct halacha. We have difficulty understanding it, and there's a question in the Rashbam whether when the Gemara uses the word kasha to end off a discussion, are we really refuting it, or are we just sort of leaving it in limbo until further clarification? Okay, so let's just sum it up again. We have a brother looking after his family's assets, and lo and behold, some of the documents have his name on it. Is he really the owner, or is he just, is it just because he was the treasurer, so he was representing them, and that's how his name got on there? Rav says he has to prove his case. Shmuel says no, they have to disprove his ownership. When does Rav say that the onus is on him? Only in a case where he's not known to have any source of income. Even their food they share. He doesn't even have his own food. Let's say they divided their food. So they're sort of each one eating separately. So perhaps he was able to slowly save up some money by skimping on his food and saving up, a nickel at a time until he had enough money to invest. Amor, we can speculate, we can suggest, me'isasei kimates, from his dough he put aside, he skimped and accumulated money for these investments. So in this case, he's presumed to be the owner. Okay, now according to Rav, Olav lahavi raya, right? The brother has to prove his case. How does he go about proving it? Raya b'mai. Rabba amar raya be'edim. He has to have edim. Then in fact, he accumulated wealth. He had an alternate source of income used to make these investments. Rav Sheshes amar, well, that's not necessary. Raya b'ki mashtar. If the Bezdin certified this document, which contained his name, that's enough, because we assume the Bezdin did their homework and they were boydek, and in fact, he's the rightful owner. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman. I have a question for you. We have this big machlokes, right? In terms of the burden of proof. Who's the one that's supposed to prove his case? We have Rav, who says the brother has to substantiate his claim. Harav, Shmuel. We have Shmuel says the other way. Harav of Rav Sheshes. In Rav itself, we had a question, what's considered the raya? We have Rab's approach, Rav Sheshes. Mar, you, Rav Nachman. Okay, pick your choice. Who do you hold like? Come on, Svirale. Amalei, he says, well, I have a raya from a brisa like Rav. Amalei, Anomas Nisa Yadana. I know about a brisa, the Sanya, which teaches us this very halacha. Echad ben Ahacham, you have one of the brothers, Shahaya, Noisein v'Noisei b'Sech Habayis, who is running the show, running the business, Vayu Oinois, Ushtoros, it's an Al-Shmoy, and he has these documents with his name on it, V'Amar Shalihain, and he claims to be the true owner. How do I get these monies? Shenaflu li, it came to me b'Beis Avi Ima, from my mother's family. Okay, who's right? Allah of Lavi, right? He has to prove his case. Otherwise, we assume no. It's the family's belongings. It's their things, and you can't really. V'chein, likewise, another similar situation. Here's a chiddush. Ha'isha, even a married woman, she noiseis v'noisenes b'sech habayis. So she's an almana. Her husband passed on, and she's running the show. Right? She's buying and selling, and running the family business. And once again, we have these shtaros, v'hayu oinois, or shtaros, yoitzin al shma, and all the official documents have her name on it. V'amar shalihin, and in fact she claims to be the rightful owner. How does she get all these things? Shanaflu li mi beis avi ima, I got the monies from mi beis avi abba, from my father's family, or mi beis avi ima, from my mother's family, and it's not connected to you kids. So the burden of proof is on whom? Aleha laviraya, she has to substantiate her claim, otherwise we assume it belongs to the family. So we have a clear-cut brisa like Rav, that the treasurer has to substantiate his claim. Okay, says the Gemara, "Mai v'chein." If we take notice, we'll notice that the brisa, upon transitioning between the case of the brother running the show and the isha running the show, use the word v'chein as a connector. Now the Rashbam explains that the word v'chein indicates that we're taking it to a new level, a higher level, a bigger chiddush. Even in the following case, do we apply this halacha? Now, what's the chiddush? What's the added lesson? Why would I think otherwise? Perhaps I would say isha. By the almana, perhaps the equation is slightly different than an older brother. Even the shvicha la milsa, since it's very honorary for her, it's very complimentary for her, that she was entrusted with their assets, the amri, that people are saying kotorcha kamiyasmi. Look, the courts, trusted her, integrity, and they gave her this job to look after the assets. They appointed her as trustee. That's a big honor. That's a big show of confidence, right? So and the fact is that people are also praising her. Look, what a nice woman she is. Look how selfless she is. So perhaps, in order to maintain that good name, right, she'll be careful not to steal from the Yisayim, not to take what doesn't belong to her. So the Amrika Tarcha Kamiyasmi Lo Goes Lamiyasmi, that will encourage her not to take anything from the Yisayim, and therefore we should assume that she's being honest and Erlich, Kamashmon, the Chiddush is no, you never know. Money has its own ways of doing things and influencing people, and therefore we're concerned about this temptation, and we're not just going to let her walk away with the items and with the assets. She has to prove that in fact she is the rightful owner. Okay, let's summarize this shtickle Gemara. So we have a treasurer, an apotropos, be it a brother or an almana, and there are shtoros yotzin al shmuel. So we have Rav, we have Shmuel, in terms of who has to bring a raya of ownership. Rav says, Olav love a raya, right? The apotropos has to prove his case, whether it's through Edom, through Ki Mashtar. We have two opinions on that. According to Shmuel, Rav would agree that once the person himself passes away and there are Yisayimim on the scene, even Rav would agree that it changes. The Yisayimim don't have to provide ownership, proof of ownership. Rav Chizah disagrees. He says no. And the Gemara asked on that, what do you mean? Yisayimim can't be better than my father. Rav Chizah makes another exception to the rule that of Rav, that all of Lavi Raya says, well, if there are Chalukin be Sasan, if there is a known source of funding, even the fact that they're eating separately, that is enough for us to speculate that in fact perhaps he was able to save up enough to make this personal investment. Okay, this is all in Rav. Shmuel disagrees. He says, the written word on the document says it all. It's his. It's the achs. It's the ishas, unless they can disprove it. Okay, back to the chazak. Bameh devar mamurim. Mishnah says, when do we say that we do a chazaka? B'machzik, when a person is making a chazaka. Aval. B'noisem matana. But if a person is giving away a property as a gift, or you have brothers that are dividing their inheritance, and the Mishnah continues, let's say a person is being machzik, b'nichsei hager, there's a convert that passed away and his assets are now ownerless, and a fellow is being machzik, he's acquiring the ger's properties. So in this case we say, noal godar paratz kol shehu. If he makes a physical change in the property, he adds a door, he closes it, he opens it up, that's called a chazaka, which gives him instant ownership. Now, we're not sure we understand this statement of the Mishnah, because the Mishnah says, well, this is all by a machzik, but by the other individual, like a person who's accepting a gift, etc., then it works differently. What do you mean? Atu kol hani da amrinan. What do you mean? All these individuals that we just mentioned, right? The Noisin Matana, all these people who are receiving, right? Lav b'nei chazaka ninu. They're also involved in chazaka. I mean, enclosing the property with a fence, etc. That's a form of chazaka. That's taking possession, right? Establishing ownership. That's called chazaka as well. What do you mean? This is chazaka and that is not. Lav b'nei chazaka ninu. Oh, says the Gemara, there are two types, there are two forms of chazaka. And in fact, the Mishnah was cited in short form, and we want to sort of add some words and learn it like this. When do we say that chazaka entails being present for 3 years in a row? The chazaka method that we've been discussing up until now, the cheskas ra'aya, the occupying the property as a form of proof of ownership, that takes 3 years, right? But chazaka she'eshi matana, that's only pertaining to a chazaka which is going against an opposing claim, meaning we have a machzik who's being imposed by the owner, it's mine, no, it's mine, and 3 years accomplishes that form of chazaka which establishes the ownership of the machzik in lieu of a shtar, right? For instance, we have a disagreement between the supposed seller who says, I never sold it to you, the buyer claims he purchased it. So there, the chazaka of shalish shanim provides a raya, as we've been discussing throughout the parak. But if you have a standard, simple form chazaka, doesn't involve any litigants, no arguments, no disagreements. I want to give you the property as a matana, and I want you to be kained. How do you do that? In these cases, the chazaka is a totally different type of chazaka. You're not using it as a raya, as a form of proof. You're just trying to take possession instantly, right? So in these cases, we say 3 years aren't necessary. Rather, we shift to a different form of chazaka. They have the same title, chazaka, but it's a totally different system. Nol godar paratz kol shu. So if he erected a fence, a gather or nol, he made a door, paratz, he breached the fence and made it accessible to him. So all these are forms of expression of ownership. Kol shu, even a small amount of chazaka, that constitutes an instant chazaka, and he is granted the property. Says the Gemara, Tani Rav Ishia, b'kedushin debei Levi. So Levi had a collection of brises, teseftes, like we find the Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Ishia compiled brises, which are our tesefta. So Rabbi Levi had his own collection of brises called kedushin debei Levi, and Rabbi Ishia cited a brisa from that collection as follows. We have one more condition, one more requirement for the chazaka to be effective. No'al godar paras kol shu, a person proceeds with this chazaka, b'fanav, in presence of the owner, in front of him, which is basically an expression of consent, right? That is required. Harizu chazaka, only then does it become a chazaka. B'fanav, only in front of him, shloi b'fanav loy, but if it's not in his presence, it doesn't work, really? Amar Rava, that's it. Okay, statement. Amar Rava, no, sorry, it's a kash, right? Meaning, it's a chazaka. What difference does it make if it's in front of him or not? Amar Rava, hachikamar means like this. Befanav, if it's in front of him, that if it's in front of him, you don't need the owner to consent. He doesn't have to give you instructions. Go ahead, leich chazek, go make the chazaka, ukni, and acquire it in that manner. You don't have to do that because he's selling it to you. Either he already accepted the money or he's about to get the money, and you're right there, you're doing the chazaka in front of him, and he's just cooperating, he's remaining silent, right? He's being shoysek. That's a show of like a haidah, right? He's in total agreement, and therefore he can't just go back on his word and cancel the deal. So even in the absence of this clear instruction of leich chazek ukni, the chazaka takes effect. But shalei b'fanav, let's say he's not there. So yeah, sure, he accepted the deal, and you're gonna either you already paid him or you're gonna pay him, but the fact is he's not around. So in this case, in order to show that in fact he's enabling and allowing the buyer to go through the deal, he has to instruct him clearly. Go make the chazak. Otherwise, it's just an offer, but we don't know that it was confirmed until we hear that from him. So by a mecher, it is required. If in fact it's shalei b'fanav. By Rav. Comes Rav with a shaila. Matana hayich. What about a gift? How do we treat a gift? Reuven offered the property to Shimon. Take it, it's yours. And Reuven walks away. He's not around. Does Reuven actually have to confirm it to Shimon. Leich chazek kni. I want you to actually take possession. Or, as the Rashbam explains, perhaps, why is he giving him a matana? It's an expression of generosity. And therefore we assume, ba'ayin toiva noisen. He's giving it good-heartedly. But matana, it's a whole different thing than a mecher. So perhaps over here, you don't have to. It's not necessary. We assume that it was offered wholeheartedly, absolutely, without any reservation, and we don't need to hear explicit confirmation of leich chazek ukni. Matana haich. Amar Shmuel, might buy the Abba. Once again, he called him Abba. Why is Abba asking this question? If anything, hashta uma mecher de koyoy leizuzi. If even by a sale, where he's getting the money, the customer is offering it, he's paying for it. So the owner is being fully compensated, and still, there's no deal until you hear it clearly. Unless the owner tells him, and then we say it's a good deal, but otherwise not. Even though he's getting paid. We need to hear clear confirmation. Matana lekoshkin, certainly by a gift where he's not getting paid, of course, he needs to confirm before we can conclude. Rav disagrees. Rav says, look, man de yoyev matana b'ayin yafa yoyev. When you sell, okay, it could be that he's doing it reluctantly, right? He's not really interested in selling. So until you hear clearly that he wants to give it away, it's not done. But a matana, man de yoyev matana, why is he giving you a gift? B'ayin yafa yoyev, with a good eye, with generosity. He's doing it b'ayin yafa. And once he offered it, he's not going back on it. So perhaps you don't need to do leich chazek ukni. Now the Rashbam explains that Shmuel, of course, agrees to the concept of ayin yafa, but he says, look, ayin yafa only works in terms of defining the content of the matana. Is it this much? Is it a lot? We say ayin yafa, he gave generously, but until you get it going, I mean, we're not sure whether he committed to it yet. So Shmuel says here it's different. Until you hear clearly, okay, I'm actually giving it to you. Once I give it, of course, ba'ayin yafa. But who says I decide to give it? I'm not yet ready to give it away until you hear clearly that in fact that's a final decision. Okay, so again regarding chazaka, we're speaking about a cheskas kinyan. Noal, godor, or paratz constitutes an instant kinyan, right? Any show of ownership, right? Like erecting a fence, all that. Now, if it's b'fanav, you don't have to do leich chazek kni. Shaloi b'fanav you do. That's by a mecher. And Rav had a question regarding matana. Okay, let's quickly recap today's daf. We started with a brisa. You're not mekabel pikdoinis from the noshim avodim mektanim for concern that perhaps they, siphoned it off from their respective, caretakers. If you took it from them, you give it back to them. By the katan, you have to make it into a segula. We have two pshatim on that. If they pass away, you give it back to the husband, in the case of the isha, or in the case of the eved to the master, in the case of the katan to the yarshim. On the other end, if they instructed us b'shas misa what to do with it, we follow their instructions. A son, a father don't have chazak on each other. We assume they're just sharing the property. But if they're a cholku, they went separate ways. They're treated like regular individuals. Regarding a brother who has shtaros on his name, Rav says olav lavi raya, whether it's through edim or ki mashtar, and that's only when we have no theory in terms of how he got his money. And Shmuel says the fact is the shtaros are in his name. He's considered in the right until they prove him otherwise. And we concluded with the halacha of the cheskas raya versus the cheskas kinyan, which happens instantaneously. All the best to you and atzlacha Rav.